Good afternoon. Today is July 11th, 2023. We are here in Pensacola, Florida, at the Pensacola Public Library. My name is Donovan Carter, and I'm here with
Asha Clarke.
And today we're interviewing the lovely
Leola Snow. It's Leola Snow.
Okay.
My name is Evelyn Goldsmith. Capital Evelyn, capital Goldsmith.
I'm Mary Juanita Jackson May, MaryJackson, or Juanita Juanita May.
Wow. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Now, may I ask how you all know each other?
We're family. Really, we are. This is my sister to my left, my biological sister. That's my sister too. Grew up with her, Leola. Very, very beautiful. Well-spoken lady. Thank you. As Mary said, we are blood related and we are spiritually related also. I've known Mary since third grade. We went to A.A. Dixon School. It was the school that was new to our community. We had gone to L.A. Kersey School. And I met her in third grade, and we've had a relationship over the years. She's very close and dear to my family. And her son, who is my godson, who is Lumen May, he's the county commissioner for District 3. So I've actually worked with Lumen since 2008. I've been everything in his campaign. From a phone banker I started, then I was an office manager, a campaign manager, etc. And this is, we call her Honey Bunch. This is Evelyn. And Evelyn is Mary's biological sister, but she's my sister too. We have this cohesive group. As a matter of fact, we have a group that we meet with every Tuesday and Thursday, and that group is called the Brownsville Silver Seniors. So we all, congregate there, and we just have a wonderful time. We start off with a devotion every Tuesday and Thursday morning where we actually sing a song. They are the singers. I told them I'll do anything but sing, Usually I do a prayer or do whatever, but that's the closeness, is I wanted to let you know how close we are. Okay.
And where do the Brownsville Silver Seniors meet?
They meet at the Brownsville Community Center, which is on DeSoto Street in the Brownsville area. I'm not sure of the address, but that's where we meet.
Okay, awesome. So earlier we were talking a little bit about, before the interview began, kind of a little bit about more of your lives and your families and your history as how you all came to Pensacola. Before we get there, I want to ask a little bit about your families and about your childhood.
Okay.
Can you talk a little bit more about what that was like? Did you live with your parents? Did you have siblings?
Yes. My mother was a single parent. She lived to be 98 years and 10 months. She died a couple of years ago. There was 5 children. I'm the oldest of the clan and probably the most bossy of the clan. Well, we grew up, we was poor, but we did not know we were poor because we lived like everybody else lived. My mom worked, as a matter of fact, she worked at this restaurant, Bartail, which was a very famous restaurant here. She worked there for 45 years. And in addition to that, she worked at First Baptist Church. And it was a dual job. She worked at Bartail's in the evenings, but in the morning time she went to the church. And she worked there, she cared for the children there. And she was there for about 42 years. In addition to that, we were a loving family. My mom stressed to us the importance of education. She was not educated, but she wanted to make sure that her children were. So we all got high school diplomas. My brother went into the military. My sister married a military man, and as a matter of fact, they're both still employed. He's retired from the military, but he's a contractor. She works at Eglin. And I left Pensacola and I went to LA for a few years, and I went to Pittsburgh. And oftentimes people ask me, like, why are you here in Pittsburgh? I said it was either love or stupidity or probably both. Because my husband's mother moved there, and a month after she was there, she passed away, and we went. And at the time I thought, I'm leaving home and I'm leaving everything that I know. But it was the best move that I could have ever made, because it gave me an opportunity to further my education. And I'm able to do some of the things that I always wanted to do. But in addition to that, I was able to help my family. So my mom she was such a good mother with strong value, but she wasn't one that, yelled and did all those things. We knew what to do, and we did. So when we look back over our lives, and even Mary and her family lived like 1 block from us. But like I said, I knew Mary from grade school. We had gone to A.A. Dixon at 3rd grade. So I've always known her. And even with my years away from home, it did not break the bond, the friendship. We could always pick up where we left off. And that, to me, that was very, very important. Now, growing up here, I remember walking to school, and we had a long walk, from M Street down to, what was that, Strong. Yeah, we had to walk to school. Now, when we went to junior high school, there was a bus. But prior to that, we walked. And we had the Fricker Center, so after school we would go there and we would dance and, enjoy each other. That was just really one of the activities. Of course, the football players and things was there, so we was quite excited about getting down there to Fricker Center. But we didn't really have an opportunity to do a lot of things, and it was for a couple of reasons. One of them was really the resources, and then the activities were sort of limited, like where you could go, because you have to remember that back then, this was prior to the integration. So here we are, we were separated, we couldn't go downtown and just buy a hamburger and sit at the counter and eat. And my mom was a cook at Bartail, which was one of the famous restaurants, but we couldn't go in there and eat. We could go down to and she could give us something from the back door, the side door, or whatever. But that was the life that we lived. We sat on the back of the bus, but we didn't realize that others had a better way of living, because that's all we knew. So we was comfortable with what we were doing. But of course now as we get older, and once the Civil Rights Bill was, we had more opportunities to do. And I can remember when my mom, the first time she went to vote, as soon as she got the right, it was like, hey, come, we have to take you down. She didn't know what to do and who she was voting for. But my neighbor, whose daughter and I is my goddaughter, we walked our moms to the voting booth. And from that day forward, my mom always voted. But that was so important, because she would talk about President Truman and stuff, and I didn't even know as a kid. Well, Mom, keep talking about him, Eisenhower, etc. So politics was really something that she always thought about, but of course she had no means of doing anything about it. So that was the kind of life that we lived. But like I said, we weren't unhappy because we didn't know anything else. We knew that on Thanksgiving we was going to have our turkey and our dressing, our collard greens and our sweet potato pies, and that was life for us. That was life. So that's the way I remember like growing up, having and not having, but majority of the people around us lived the same way, so we didn't know that we were different.
That long walk to school that you mentioned you all had to do when you were younger, going to elementary school. Did white kids in Pensacola have the same thing where they all walked to school that was far? Can you talk a bit about how segregation influenced down to your commute to school and other things?
We didn't see any white kids. No. We lived up near a project house, Morris Court. And I think the other one was like Washington Court, and that was for the service guys. And we probably lived 2 or 3 miles from the school. And it was really, really hard times, I would say. And as Leola said, we lived in 61 Morris Court. I'll never forget it. That was our number, 61 Morris Court. For 1 year, I think we went to L.A. Kersey School, which if you ride down Jackson Street now in the 800 block, they have about 50 houses that they said was for low-income people. Blacks till today can't afford one of them. Mm-hmm. So they took that away from us. Mm-hmm. People doesn't realize, but Pensacola was a hard place to live in. But we didn't know that. We didn't realize that. As Leola said, her mom worked, my mom worked. My mom worked at National Laundry for years with Leola Auntie. Mm-hmm. And then she got on with the city of Pensacola. She was a janitor at the airport. She left the airport, got on with the city in the recreational department, Fricker Recreational Center. It's still there on Strong Street. And that's the worst whooping I ever got, following my older sisters. Because my dad told us, you don't go in there. And one day, it was raining. And you said, oh, we're going to go in and call Daddy. And she told him, Daddy, we're waiting here at Fricker Center for you. I remember that. I remember that whooping. And he says, I told you all don't go in there. That was the place, the only place we as black kids then had to go. And I'll never forget it. A boy named Freddie Williams, Perry Lee brother, had gotten shot there. So for me, everybody thinking this shooting just started. But it was in our day, but we were secluded. We grew up very poor. But like Leola said, none of us knew it. It was like, really? And when I tell my kids about when we had to go to Alabama during the summer because we didn't have anyone to keep us. And I remember crying. I was a crybaby. I was really a crybaby. And I cried from that Friday. My mom now put me off at my grandma's house until that Sunday when they got them word that they had to come get me. And they came. And my sister and them started crying because they wanted to come back to Pensacola. But through it all, I think our lives were much better than the kids are now. Because we learned to wash, we learned to iron, we learned to cook. In my house, my mom's household, you had a week to wash dishes, one had a week to wash clothes, and one had a week to iron the clothes. It's not like my grandkids are now. Every time you get ready to put on something, you got to put up an ironing board. They didn't play that because it wasn't feasible. They raised us for today. Even though we didn't realize it, Leola, it has helped us so much. And I tell my grandkids, I have 7 kids. I have 4 boys, 3 girls. They are the 7 L's. I don't know how everybody got the L, but I think it was not by chance, but it was a divine will. And for me, my life has truly been divine and directed by the Lord. I married in 67, had my first baby in 68, and from 70 to 75, I had the other 4. And at age a month before I turned 40, I had another surprise baby. Totally different from that generation of my other kids. I married Theophilus May from Castleberry, Alabama. Times were very hard in the 70s. I had to take $20, my baby meal. I didn't know nothing about Pampers, diapers. We had to wash them. I attended Washington Junior College.
What did you study?
I was studying biology, and I'm going to tell you, I had to dissect a meat one time, and I actually fainted.
Dissecting a pig, you said?
And to this day, I'm afraid of everything. I am afraid of everything, but it was good for me. I took piano lesson. I married my husband, Theophilus.
Talk about him as a pastor.
As a pastor, he's the pastor of the Friendship Missionary Baptist Church for 40 years before he passed away. He rebuilt the church. It's in the hood. And in 68, that's when he was called to pastor. And he attended Washington Junior College. He attended Florida A&M, his Rattlers, and Howard University. And he had an offer at a church in Bradenton, and I thought he would accept it, but that was not the call that the Lord had for his life. And I can remember crying again when he accepted friendship, and I was going, oh, we're going to this church, it doesn't have a bathroom, because I grew up in Emmanuel Baptist Church, still there today, and I think Gregory probably could tell you the age, because Greg is my godson, and he chaired their 100 and something anniversary. I think it was last year, and so my life has been a whirlwind. Most people don't understand me. I don't understand myself. My calling is to help children. I owned my own nursery, and
Where was it, if I can ask?
it was 1207 North M Street. It's still there in the hood.
Wow.
I own it. I own the house, but the nursery, I started having babies too fast, and I think my sister had to come help me.
Talk about your children and where they are.
Okay. Well, let me tell you about Theophilus, the little black boy from Castleberry that nobody wanted. And we started writing a book right before he passed away. We didn't finish it. I'm very proud. I have the oldest boy is Theophilus. My husband's name is Lorenzo Theophilus. He's in Birmingham, doing well. Then came Luma James, Papa Jeff, as my husband people called him. He's a county commissioner, and of course he's Leola child. He's by the grace of God, God has spared him through dangerous scenes and unseens. Then I had Lemuel O'Neill. Oh my God, did you all ever read about King Lemuel in the Bible? Boy, Lemuel was an odd child. And I tell people, don't give up on your children. Lemuel got caught in the streets. So I want to encourage people, it doesn't matter what type of home they come from, if you're not careful. But what separates me from other people, I believe, is the calling that I have on my life. So I could not tell Lemuel he wasn't doing wrong. And I'm not ashamed to let the world know that Lemuel got caught up in drugs. And that was very, very hard for me. But by the grace of God, I didn't give up on it. And today, he's doing very well in Birmingham.
Amen.
The prayers of the righteous.
Availeth much.
Very much, amen.
And after the three boys, Kate Lorenzo attended Concordia in some parts of Alabama, Concordia College. Lomond went to UWF, where he received his master's. But you know, it's all basically black kids so anxious to leave home. Loma left and went to Jacksonville, headquarters, and on a baseball scholarship.
Wow.
And my husband went to one game. He cried. He says, "Daddy, I cannot play ball in the cold and in the rain." And he understood if he came home that he would go to school here in Pensacola. Lorraine, she's somewhere on the highway now. Her husband is an admiral. He's just retired, so they're coming home. Lorraine is working on her, she's doing her, for her doctorate. And she's always had a calling for her handicapped children. Then comes LaRuby. LaRuby, she was city councilman of Ward 8 in Washington, D.C. She realized that wasn't, she went to Eckers. And if y'all get a chance, y'all can put her up. She was the commencement speaker this year for Eckers.
Wow.
She said that the Lord had called her. She was in this school. She left Eckers. She went to George Washington. Then one day she calls and said, "Mama, I'm in the wrong field. I have to go to law school in order to help my people." And today, I'm very proud. She does a lot of work for the people. She has not forgotten where she came from and how she got there. So she's a very successful black lawyer in D.C. And of course, she co-counsels for one of the largest firms here in Pensacola, the Levin Tony firm, but she owns her own company in Washington, D.C.
Wow.
LaDonna is the baby. And Donna does very well. She's had a battle with cancer, but God has spared her.
Yes.
And she now runs Ruby office. So I'm so proud. I'm really proud of her. And I pray. Then I forgot little Timothy. Timothy received his master's from school in Atlanta. He's the proud pastor of a Friendship Missionary Baptist Church. So we're praying that he will find himself back. And one thing I want all of them, I just met this young man, but he's like my child. When God blesses us, Black people, do not be ashamed of your color, who you are, your background, or where you came from. And I tell everybody, remember Mama. If it was not for Mama, it wouldn't be no you. So if you make it to be the president of the United States of America, you gotta look back and say, Mama. Daddy planted the seed, but God knows Mama had to care. 9 months.
That's right.
My husband has been successful. He grew up without a mom. And if you go downtown, most of the buildings have Theophilus May. They don't have it written up there because of the prejudice and segregation and things we had to endure. The L&N terminal, that's my baby too. Took him 2 years without blueprint. He told the guy, he was working for Pop Dyson, one of the big white contractors here. And he says, if you leave me alone. He said, black boy, they say you could build anything. He says, I can if you leave me alone. He said, just go get me a lot of white paper and just leave me alone. He said, and I'll put it back together. I'll cut every groove. Just like this old building. He had the opportunity to take it down on Main Street, bring it back up farther on Main Street. Took him 2 years. That's why I want to encourage Black women to support your Black men. Black men, support your Black women. For 2 years, he ate and slept that building. And that was his wife. But by the grace of God, God enabled me to stand with him. Times were hard, y'all. Very, very, very hard. So that's sort of the makeup. Tomorrow, or come Friday, someone's coming to Pensacola to do a documentary of my life.
Wow.
And the opposite life. So to you all, you young people, when one door is closed, just keep knocking till the right door open. Don't settle for anything, baby. Because you are the queen and you're the king.
And also one thing on that, when you're talking about doors and keep knocking, sometimes the door that is closed is because God closed them. He doesn't want you, or he didn't want you to go the route that you're going. So don't be discouraged because a door is closed. And you don't have to keep knocking on it, because God will open another door. You know, it's interesting when I listened to Mary talk, because I knew her husband. He was our landlord, and he lived next door to me, so I know Pastor May, you know. So it was different just hearing the story, because I remember them saying about the L&N Road that it couldn't be done. But Theophilus May was able to go in there and restore that. So that is great history. And since I have the mic, I'll go ahead and say this about my husband. My husband was similar to Reverend May. And he just died like 5 years ago, but we were actually together for about 55, we was married for 45 years.
Wow.
But he was a jack of all trades, and I said master of none, because there was very few things that he couldn't do and that he did do. And as a result of that, he has 5 children, and they are my babies. I consider them not as stepchildren. I don't even use that term. They were just my children. But he and I had one biological child together, and I'm very, very proud of my son because he is a retired firefighter from the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area. Prior to that, he worked for Dish Network and he worked for AT&T. But he needed the money, so the fire department was paying more money, so he went. It was a dangerous job, but he did it. But the thing that I'm most proud of him is that when his father got sick and he realized, that the end was probably near, he called me one day and he said to me, Mom, he said, I'm going to retire. Well, I go into this long spiel about, you have to make sure you have your ducks in a row, you have to do this and blah, blah, blah. And he didn't say a word, he just listened. Because I wanted him to be ready for retirement, because he was only like 51, 52. But I retired at 54. So I'm thinking, but I had a husband and it was different, you know what I mean? 2 incomes coming in. And he called me back probably about 3 weeks later, and he started to say again, he said, Mom, he said, I'm going to retire. I said, well, Dre, I'm going to tell you, he said, I signed my retirement papers today. He said the last day on the job is May 17th. He said, my dad has been so good to me. He said, he needs me and you need me to help you. So he retired. He didn't let me give him that same spiel again. He made up his mind. He lived in Pittsburgh for 15 years without us when we relocated back here. But the thing that was so interesting about it was that he loved his father enough to know that this was the time he had to show his father that he loved him. Unfortunately, my husband was at a stage that he only lived about 5 months, but he got to spend that time with him and to know. And as she said, even with our children, whether they go to the left or to the right, they are still our children. And I heard my pastor would say, keep calling out their names to God. Keep calling out their names to God, regardless of where they are, what they have done. Keep calling out their names to God, because that's how we get to where we are. We're not where we are because so much of what we did, but because of our parents and our grandparents. So don't forget that, young people. Keep striving, but remember where you come from. And if a door is closed, look at it as God wanted that door to be closed. He has another one over there that probably has a bigger gift for you. That's where your blessings are. Now I'll let Evelyn talk.
Well, I can say that I was born and raised here in Pensacola, Florida, and I am the oldest one. And my sister, she's the baby. We lost a sister with cancer. I think it's been almost 30 years now, maybe. But I can remember some things that she can't remember, by me being the oldest. And she always, the baby seemed to always get away with everything. And it was just 3 of us. And I remember when we stayed in the project, we didn't have but a 2-bedroom apartment. And we had to sleep together. And the baby, we wanted her in the middle. And she never wanted to be in the middle. But really, we put her in the middle because she wiggled so much. And on Sundays, we had to go to church, no matter what. Even if you had a headache, you still had to go to church. And I love to go to church. And as I grew older, I said, I'm not going to church anymore. Because as that old song said, my dad and mother drug us to church. And as I grew older, to come to be, I said, get out on my own, where I married once, and then I ended up getting a divorce. And I had 3 children. And I was a single parent for a while. And I'm not ashamed to say I had to get on the system to survive. Then I worked. I got tired of the system because at times they wanted to get into your business that they didn't have any business getting into. So I said, my mother always said, if you pray and ask God, He will make a way. So I got me a job. I started working. I'm not ashamed to say sometimes I had to get on my knees on these white people's floor, but it was a living. I didn't have to look over my shoulders at anybody to do it. And I took care of my children, and finally, God sent me a good man. A good man, a teller of anything. And he married me with 3 children. And he was the best thing that I feel could have come into my life at the time, because at that time I had been used to being by myself and being in control over everything. And I was a person that didn't want to take orders, especially from a man, because at that time I was hurt by a man. And when you give a person all that you can give them, you know, when you find somebody in your life coming, they're good. And thank God for my mom talking to me. And me and my mom, we talked a lot together. I guess because I was the oldest one. And she said, don't mistreat that man. That man come in your life with 3 children. And I said, yeah, he did, you know. So he proved himself. And the children come to love him. And then we finally got married. We stayed married for 43 years. And ended up having 1 child for him. And it went on and on and on. And he was a man who can take a stick and build something out of it. He had that type of a talent. And things he made for the children, pieces of metal, how he made a bank. I still have the bank now that he made for all 4 of them, so they can put their little money in that. And then after that, we stayed in the projects for a while. Then we moved where I'm there now. I've been there 55 years, Baker Street, not too far from the library. And he built a closet, and I said, you don't know how to do that. He built the closet from Morris Court to where we are now. And then he had a Volkswagen. I think he bought it from my brother-in-law. And I said, what are you gonna do? He said, I'm gonna put, I said, no, you can't do that. You don't have the talent to do that. He's very smart. He got a book. He went in the garage. He had a piece of land here, there. I said, you can't put all this together. You ain't never built no car and put it together. He said, you just wait. I said, one day you gonna hit this thing, start up. And he was a workaholic. My husband was, my sister, he was a workaholic. And he would work and come in and get in that garage 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Finally, I heard something, tup, tup, tup. He put it together. My sister made that little Volkswagen. And I just couldn't believe that he could put a car together with, I said, like 6 to 7, pieces. Y'all know how. And I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. I got up that morning, looked out there, and he said, I told you I can get it. I said, yeah, you did. You know? And those things on. Then after we had the children, we had the son, her son, and my son. They were like that, and like they said, they got on the wrong track. They went out there and got on some drugs. But I tell you, prayer changes things. You're quiet, you're worried. And my son was a good child, but he always wanted to, prove something to people or trying to make people be his friends. And that day, I was sitting on my porch, and I seen the police stop at the stop sign. And he came home with a lot of money. I said, "Where you get that money from, Colin?" "Oh, I've been working." I said, "No, you don't bring that kind of, He said, "I've been landscaping." I said, "Oh, you landscape, baby, you get dirty." I said, "Cause I've been out there and sprayed grass, so in my yard." So he came, so here come the cop. White man. He let this white man fool him, policeman fool him. And he come running out the house. And I stood up on my porch. I said, "He won't live here." No, I got 3 more children here. I'm gonna go to sleep at night. Police looked at me. I looked at him like I'm looking at you. He can't stay here. He hurt me to put my son out. He was about 18 or 19. I took him around the corner where a man had a boarding house. I paid his rent for 3 months. He had a job. I said, "You can come and pick up your food and keep going, because I got to sleep at night. Your daddy got to work." He was in with the white cop. And I told him, "You is a black boy. They will kill you and never know who did it. Never know who killed you." Somehow they did try. I don't think I never told my sister. Somebody knew that this cop was at my son. And someone said he got a bad scar on his leg where I cut him. He never told me about it. So finally asked him, he pulled up this long scar where he cut with the wire. I said, "Why didn't you tell me?" "I didn't want to tell you, Mama." I said, and I thank God for my cousin today in Hartford, Connecticut. It was about July like this, and I can't think of the year, but he wanted to go back with him. And I told him, I said, "You can go." And I told my cousin, I said, "He don't have no winter clothes." He said, "Don't worry about the clothes." He said, "I'll take him back." So my son been there about 30 years. And he doing fine. Got in a little trouble there, but he finally got out. But prayer works. And I tell people, I got 3, 4. I lost one of my daughters at the age of 10 with open heart surgery. And I have 2 girls and a son living. And
Tell me about your grandchildren.
then I got my grands.
Tell me about Azar.
Azar, I'm gonna get to, that's my princess. I got 1 daughter, the oldest one, she's 61. And I got 1 56. And the son, he's 62. And I got a grandson, he's 25.
Tell me what he does, baby.
And the other one, I think he's 40. I can't, my sister keep up with ages better than I do. And
Tell him about Ashler. Tell him what he's accomplished. Ashler.
oh, Asher, he's into something like you're into. He goes out with the basketball players and take pictures and
photographer.
A photographer. He had a chance to work with Channel 10. He wants to be behind the scene, so he's doing that. Plus, he's over a gym there in Richmond, Virginia. He's over that with the youth. He's over there. And my granddaughter, which is my little princess, because I had all these turtles and I wanted me some banana pudding. So that's Azaria. She's put her 3rd year in Penn State.
Wow.
She's into the medical field. So I'm proud of all of them.
She's a great athlete.
She played basketball, and I don't know what she's going to be. She has so many talents.
Mm-hmm.
She had a project to make for school, and she made a car out of cardboard. And she said, "Granny, I can make it run." So when she came home, she put her little battery in the little car. She made the little car run.
That's amazing.
Absolutely.
She's had a long time talent. She's had something she had to do for walking in space. She made it out of the foam and got on it. She would walk. She can play a drum. She can play a saxophone. She can do keyboard. So she just turned 20, but she have a lot of talents. And the oldest daughter, she started out in the medical field, but she wanted to go into the fast food business. So she is into that. So she was a manager for 25 years for Burger King. And she's with Arby's, I think that's the name of it there. She's in with them. She's assistant manager there. They want her manager, but she says she don't want to be a manager anymore. And my son, he sings in the choir. He finally got back, but he's doing better now. He had to have surgery this morning on his throat, but he's doing good. And beginning back saying how we was raised, we had good food. My sister probably don't remember some of it, but on Sundays, you know, people don't believe, but we had steak on Sunday.
Wow.
We did, my dad would buy a steak with that hole in the center of it, and he would cut that, and all of us would get a piece of that steak. And people say, "Y'all been eating those?" I said, "Yes, we did too." Steak and gravy and collard greens and black-eyed peas, and through the week we probably eat the peas and neck bones, and you ate that meat what was cooked in the greens.
That's right.
You didn't. you didn't.
We got dressed up on Sunday.
That's
We ate
supper.
good on
Yeah, that
Sunday,
was supper.
regardless of what was wrong.
Right, and then like my sister was saying, when we went to the country, like I was saying, I always wanted to do different things. So I tell the young people, I wouldn't starve if we go back. They don't realize those black-eyed peas they eat, those what you put in the ground. The butter beans, that's what you put in the ground. And okra, and I know how to shake the peanuts, I know how to get the potatoes. They don't realize you got to wait till the potatoes come to the top of the ground before you get the sweet potatoes and the iced potatoes. And my grandmama had a peach tree, but we can eat them peaches, but she had one tree she didn't want us to bother. With me, I got me a piece, and that's the first time she didn't hurt me, but I thought she was killing me. She said, "I told you not to get those peaches off that tree." So I learned how to, get in the field with the watermelons and hit them and pull that heart out, And so I tell the young people, learn how to survive, because in time like these we don't know what's going on. And learn how to cook. There's no excuse, because you get your cookbooks and all that to learn how to cook with. It's nothing like eating your food. It's okay to eat out, but when you cook your own food, you know what you can put in it. And there's so much fast food now, so much sodium and all these things. That's why we got so many It was because of all this different stuff that we eat. So I think I've said enough.
Let's get back to Pensacola. You all want to know about.
We've talked about everything.
About Pensacola.
I did have a question since it's evident that faith is so important and we can see why with y'all. So I wanted to know if any of you could touch a bit more on the Baptist church tradition within Pensacola and what your experience has been growing up within that tradition.
For me, well, basically, we grew up in any church. If they said go to church, I'm going to tell you about the Baptist church. In the Baptist church, our belief that was embedded in us was that in everything, whatever you do, you put God first. To get it back to yours generation with my kids and everything, I would tell them, listen, if you go into the bar, we as a people, we have to learn to tell our children the truth and what is out there. It's up to you all to accept it. Growing up, if you did not attend church because you were sick that Sunday, they could have anything they wanted to at the school. We were taught, but your teacher doesn't rule this house. You say you got to be, you can't be in that. You're not going tonight. You were too sick Sunday to go to church. We had rules and regulations. The church were our strength. Now the church has become a plaything for them. Most kids go to church now. They don't believe in God. It's because we have allowed other people to come in and change the culture. I don't argue the Bible. I don't dispute nothing anybody say. But for me and my household, we serve the Lord. There is one God. And it doesn't matter what you call it. Just find and realize it can be raining in Leola's backyard. And I can be living right next door to it. It's not even raining in my front yard. And if man had so much power, God gives him some power because he says, I know the plan I have for your life. But then he says, I'm a jealous God too. The plan he has for your life. But then you have a plan. We have to take the Bible today and make it become reality to you all. So that's the drugs and the liquor, all this stuff, homosexuality, all this. But can you make it become alive in your lives? I tell people, I believe that there's one God. And I'm a witness to that. August 20th of this year, be 2 years, I had a terrible accident, a fatal accident. There've been all kind of doctors, this, that, and the other. But I let my faith slip a little bit, and all my faith in the doctors. And if you remember, when Jesus was 12 years old, he stood around and he talked with the doctors and the lawyers and all this. My husband was gone, children out and all this. But I had to find my way back.
Yes.
Now, Mary, where's your faith? Where is your faith? I put my faith in the doctor, but in putting my faith, you all need to go to school. We need doctors. I believe in doctors. I'm not foolish. I'm not foolish. But we have allowed society to make fools out of us. They think for us. But in the Black Baptist Church, we respect, there's no respect. Oh my God. Gentlemen go to church, they ought to look like a man. For me, I tell people, I don't care nothing about nobody's sexuality. And that's what we have to believe, instead of allowing other people to tell our children this, that, and the other. But God gives you a choice. He's not gonna whoop you down. All this phony stuff in the church make me sick. I'm not gonna tell you don't drink. I'm not gonna tell you don't dance. Because I love to dance. I can't dance now. But I didn't stop dancing until I had that accident. But I knew how to dance, when to dance. If we don't go back to some of the old remedies, children 10 years old, 12 years old, they have no respect. That's not us. That's not our people. So just for the Baptist Church, we have lost our labor. We've lost it. We just lost the baby.
And to just sort of piggyback on that, when you talk about our faith, as children growing up, and majority of us, especially in our neighborhood, we lived on the west side of Pensacola, and we were sort of like the kids that were more, well, the immature kids, the kids that was more babyfied than some of the other areas in the city. But majority of us grew up Pentecostal. And there was so many rules and regulations, you know, that you had to obey, you had to follow, and I see you're nodding your head, but that's just the way it was. And our parents were Pentecostal. So there were things that we thought that we could never do. And as a result of that, I think this is what happened with a lot of the younger people from the Pentecostal church. You start to grow away from it because everything was so strict. In the Baptist church, the life was a little bit more leisure. You know, you had an opportunity to do a few more things that you could do in the Pentecostal because it just wasn't permitted. But as a result of that, we have the faith, but we grew on the faith. We grew up that way. Everything was in decent and order. There was rules and regulations. But what I found as I got older, well, those are the things that we really stand on. Those are the, well, even just go back to the scriptures, you know, those was just, you know, it was a promise that we had made to God, but we made that promise when we were young. Remember, I talked about being the stenographer at 9 years old. And one of the things that I actually know Mary and Evelyn's mom before I knew them, but I didn't know she was the mother because she sung with a group called the Peace Singers. And on Sunday mornings, we would go to the radio station. And as her mother and that group had done their set, we would be coming on. Now, I never had a great voice, so I don't, like I said, don't ask me to sing. But I was always like the announcer or something, so I would go in and introduce our little group and things. But all I'm saying is children back when we grew up in Pensacola, the children were in the church. And regardless of what went on during the week, on Sundays, you were up, you was dressed with your best clothes on, you went to church, and you came home and you had a good dinner. You know, regardless of what you ate during the week, Sundays you was going to have a good dinner. My mom was a cook, and Mary them told the pies and things that she made. So she loved for people to come by, you know, and get a meal. But that's how we lived. But everything was based on our faith. We knew that regardless, and I could hear my mom saying in the kitchen, I don't care what was wrong, she said that God will make a way. And she believed in that. So as children growing up, that's what I believed. In 2002, the doctor said to me, I can't help you because I don't know what's wrong with you. But I knew, my mom said that God will make a way. So I believe that. And today I still stand that regardless of what's going on in my life today, and I don't know what tomorrow brings, but I know that God brings tomorrow. And when the morning comes, you know, I just say, hey, wait for the morning, because it will be a brighter day. And that's the faith that we had. But we got that faith growing up in Adams Court, Morris Court here in the Pensacola area. We had great teachers here. And that's one thing that we need to point out. The teachers in Pensacola at that time really cared about the students. So we are where we are today because we had good teachers, we had good leaders, and we had good preachers at that time. Today things are different, but it's different all over the world. But because of that, you know, we were grounded. We knew where we stood. We knew the things that we needed to do to get where we wanted to go. Unfortunately, it was this, and it happened to me, and I'm sure it happened to Mary and to Evelyn. If your parents weren't able to afford, like this, say something as simple as a typewriter. Now, and that's when the stenographer is still in the back of my mind, right? I couldn't take typing in school because my mother could not afford to buy a typewriter for me. So that was a handicap for me. But in my mind, I kept pressing because I knew that there were better days ahead for me. But I had to do something different. I had to leave Pensacola in order to get where I am today. But that was a blessing. I know Mary often says to me, and she said it openly, and I really appreciate this, that when I came back here, it wasn't an accidental thing, it was a divine thing from God, because I had stayed away from my family for so many years. So he brought me back, and at the time that I started to work for Lumen, my sister actually volunteered me, and I was like, girl, don't volunteer me. I was sick and I didn't want to do it. She said, it's going to help you get out. And it did, because I had a reason to want to get up and to live. And basically that's where I was. But it all came back to my faith. And my mom in there, you know, cooking those collard greens, and she said, God will make a way. And I believe that. She lived to be 98 years and 10 months.
Wow.
So I just thank God for the opportunity. I thank God for the people that he has placed in my life, because that's important, regardless of who you are. If you're not surrounded with good people, move from wherever you are, because you're not going to do better. You need somebody that knows a little bit more than you, someone who cares a little bit more than you, someone who can do it, because that really makes you strive to be a better person. And better person mentally, spiritually, physically, everything. So try to always surround yourself with good people. People who's going to help you when you fall down, that they will be there to pick you up, prop you up, and help you to stand.
And tell you the truth.
That's important.
Tell you.
Not what you need to hear,
Not what you need to hear.
but actually to tell you. And if you think back with your parents, and I know you say, oh yeah, no, mom told me that, you didn't pay attention to it then, but now as you grow, yeah. And especially when you start paying your own bills,
All right.
it's a different story. But I guess that probably concludes it for me today.
Wow.
That's it, that's, yeah.
Immigration. I want to mention that, Leo. That was a terrible time for us. at Pensacola.
Okay, so that.
It was around 62, 63, we probably were like 10th, 11th grade. And they decided to handpick kids to go to, we were at Washington, all black school, but they had Pensacola High. And they picked a few kids. They didn't really pick any of us because we were from the hood. We were the nobodies. And the kids, I think it was Kara Smith, I can't remember them all, but it's been over 60 years since I've been at school. And they went to that school, and when they came back, they says they didn't have black written over the water fountain, they had colored. That was a hard time here in Pensacola. Pensacola is one of the most prejudiced right now to today. Everybody said, come to Pensacola. You come, but have something. Have your mind set. There are a lot of opportunities. People, Miss Moocher, my husband, and I tell my children, your dad worked the way he worked so that you wouldn't have to do this. You wouldn't have to take this from the white man. Don't be so quick, babies, for that fast dollar. And read everything. That's what I used to tell my kids. Read everything, because you don't know what's gonna come your way. And in Pensacola, we had the greatest black teachers that there was. And that's what has happened to Pensacola.
That's right. In our class.
Our kids, they can't even read. That's one of the things our churches taught us. In our youth department, on Saturdays, I don't care what you were doing. And people say, well, they didn't have football. Yes, we did. We had football, we had basketball, we had all that. But Saturday at 12 o'clock, we allowed them to pick the time. My kids, Leola siblings, okay, 12 o'clock, y'all be here at the church. Give them something. We have to give them more than what our parents gave us. Our parents get on that blue bus, go to church, get on your knees and call Jesus, 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 Jesus. I never got so tired of calling Jesus. I'm being honest with you. I said, I would never put my child through that. Mama, why do we have to go and get on? I said, when I'm going to know when I get the Holy Ghost?
You know that's what I say. You know when you get it.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. No, you didn't, sister. Wait a minute. Because I remember Bishop Dawson. You remember Bishop Dawson?
She was my pastor.
She was over my head just call Jesus, call Jesus. And I said, well, when I'm going to get, she said, because this white foam going to come out your mouth. I got some spit. and I put made it foam, y'all. And she said, you got the Holy Ghost. I said, thank you, Jesus. That's why it's so important that y'all go to school, baby. Y'all go to school. And just don't go to school, learn. You know, that's my godson right there.
He's motion for us. I guess we talk longer than.
I'm telling y'all, the church. Okay, read. And I had a slogan. Okay. Comma. They just read it. We taught kids that we taught at Southern School how to read, because we didn't really know what this time will bring us, but we know the white people had something up their sleeve. And I would say, slow down, comma, stop here, explanation mark. Where's your action? Where's this? Please encourage black kids to read. You
And
all
how to
know.
read. How to read. Not
How
just
to read.
but how to read.
And how, when they get to the platform, to stand up and hold your chest up and read. Calling words it's not reading. They gotta teach them how to comprehend what. That's what the black teachers did for us. That white school, Pensacola High, I remember I went there like one day, and I went home and I cried because they treated us like we were animals. That's what Pensacola was like. And I thank God that, and even in my kids' time, it was a mess. It was a mess. I don't even want to think about it.
Okay.
You know. But I'm gonna tell y'all, the key to anything, prayer. You don't have to know how to pray. Just say what's in your heart.
That's right. Just talk to God.
Talk to
That's
God
what it's
like
all
you
about.
talk to me.
Yeah, that's what
I think that's what we have to teach our kids, and that's why they straying so from the church. Be firm in whatever, and don't follow the crowd. Make your decision, and if you want to go to the moon, and they tell you can't go, you just keep trying. You get that, baby. And I'm so great. Any more questions y'all want to ask?
I'm gonna say this about the church, cause like I say about she being the baby's a lot. She didn't know about the church, about the holiness church, and it is something about on your knees calling Jesus. I'm a living witness of that. But I was under Bishop Bell. I was under Bishop Dawson, and you stay there long enough. I'm a living witness. If you stay there long enough, oh, you're gonna feel a change. You're gonna feel it. Ain't nobody got to tell you. You ain't got to foam at the mouth, but you're gonna feel a change. And you're gonna feel different. I had to get that little bit in because by me being the oldest, that you can do it at home. You can do it at home. You ain't got to get the trick. You can get in something that you can understand. And if you keep calling on Jesus and you believe from your heart, Holy Spirit gonna give you. He gonna whisper to you.
Yeah.
So that's all I
it.
want to say.
But yeah, but you gotta believe. But you gotta get old enough to believe.
Believe in that.
You got
That's what
Mature.
You gotta
that's
mature.
what I'm saying. I had
I wasn't there.
That's why I
That's
say
what I
you would.
mean. I'm talking. What, Jesus, why am I calling Jesus?
That's what see you want for.
I certainly
But
hope
I really
that
enjoy
we
I
have given you something that you can dwell on, or you can write about, or you can do whatever. I don't know. I guess we need the sister talk. So, so do you have any additional questions, or is anything that you?
You gave us a lot, and it was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing about the history of Pensacola, but your own life stories as well. We just want to thank you on behalf of the Samuel Proctor Oral History Program for speaking with us today. And if there's any last-minute things that y'all would like to add, please feel free. But otherwise, we can let you get on your way.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was nice.